So what we're doing today is we're finishing up 1.4, so doing 1.42. So we talked about solving multi-step equations on Wednesday. Then yesterday we went over distributive property because we are going to use distributive property with these multi-step equations. So we're going to combine the two, okay? So our first problem is this one here. Now I'm just going to rewrite it. But what we're going to do is we notice we have a number outside of parentheses, yes? So we have to use that distributive property. We have to use that distributive property here. So we're looking at this one here. So the first thing we need to do is distribute that 2 through everything inside those parentheses. So what we're going to do is we're going to do 2 times 1 and 2 times negative x. So what we have is 2 times 1 minus 2 times x plus 3 equals negative 8. Because we're multiplying both of those by 2. So this is kind of similar to what we did yesterday, yes? Except the only main difference is that we didn't have it equaling something. So that's the only main difference. Now we can simplify and combine like terms like we did yesterday. So 2 times 1 is 2. Negative 2 times x is negative 2x. Plus 3 equals negative 8. So what are our like terms on this side? 2 and 3. So we can combine those. So what is 2 plus 3? 5. So what we have here is negative 2x plus 5 equals negative 8. Now at this point here, what we do from here to the end of this problem to solve for x should seem very similar to what we did on Wednesday. It's actually exactly what we did on Wednesday. So we need to get x by itself. So we subtract 5 from both sides. And when we subtract 5 from both sides, we get negative 2x because 5 minus 5 is 0. And over here, negative 8 minus 5 is going to be negative. And last but not least, we're going to do what? Divide both sides by. And we get x is equal to 13 over 2. So it's not always going to work out that we get a whole number. We can get fractions. We can get decimals. That's perfectly fine. Questions on this here? Got the works? Do you have a note sheet from 1-4? 1-4's notes? Let's see here. It looks like I don't have an extra copy. So any questions on this so far? We good with all this here? All right, let's look at the next one. 4 parentheses n minus 6 close parentheses minus 1 equals 31. So I'm going to write it down here. So the first thing we have to do in solving for this is to distribute that 4. We have to distribute that 4 across both of those terms. You're welcome. Because we want to distribute it across, multiply it by the 6 and the n. So we're going to multiply across here. So 4, so we'll have 4 times n, which would be 4n. Then we have negative 6 times 4, minus 1 equals 31. Well, negative 6 times 4 is negative what? 24. And if you don't have it down that fast, you can plug it in a calculator. There's nothing wrong with that. And then we have what? Our negative 1 equals 31. So what are our like terms here? So we can plug in negative 24 minus 1. we get this here. Any questions on this here? We good with this here? Now again, we want to get x by itself. So the next thing we need to do is we're going to do what? We're going to add what to both sides? Add 25 to both sides. Because we want to get 4 in by itself, because that's going to be the easiest way. We get 4 in, the variable and whatever number's in front of it by itself, and then divide or multiply. So we do addition and subtraction first to move everything. So we add 25 to both sides because these will cancel, leaving us with 4 in equals, well, 31 plus 25 is what can we do next? You get the answer already? No, we divide both sides by 4, and we get n is equal to 14. Because when we solve these and get done, we should have the variable by itself, nothing being added, subtracted, multiplied besides 1 equals the number. And that's it. Any questions on this here? Does this feel very similar to what we did on Wednesday? A little bit? Because the first part of 1.4 was essentially something starting about right here and going down, yes? So it's very similar. The only difference is we have our distributive property. That's the only real difference between this and what we did on Wednesday. So looking at this one here, I want y'all to give this one a try on your own. I'll come around and check it and see how you did. And if you get stuck, if y'all get stuck, we'll work it together.
So is this pretty much what we did for homework yesterday?
Almost, yeah. Except for the only difference was what? We didn't have the equals. It's pretty much everything except it didn't equal something. Because most of the ones we did, what am I looking for? They kind of look like it? Yeah, it's just we didn't have this half. So we'll do the distributive property first and do that step, and then solve. Use the steps to solve. Give it a try, and then we can look at it together. Now, it looks like most of y'all got the first step right when you distributed. Because after you distributed, everybody was able to get to this here. Yes? Yes? There's 3x. Able to get there, or did you just copy that down? So what are our like terms? 3 and 6. What does this 3 have? Does either one of these have an x? No. So this doesn't have any like terms. Since these don't have x, they are like terms. We can combine like terms. So we have 3x plus 9 equals -9. Because we can combine like terms. So we can combine like terms here. Now, we need to get 3x by itself. So what's with 3x? 9. So what can we do to both sides to get 9 away? So it's added, so we can do the opposite of addition is? Yep. So we would subtract 9 from both sides. Well, 9 minus 9 is? 0, yes? So I'm left with 3x on the left side is equal to negative 9 minus 9 is? Yes. So negative times a negative will make a positive. Yeah, so when we subtract a negative, it's just making it a bigger negative. Now, if it had been negative 9 plus 9, then it would be 0. Or if we were doing negative 9 minus negative 9, then it would be 0. So we got x by itself, yes? So we've almost got it completely by itself. We just have 3x, yes? So since they're being multiplied, we're going to do the opposite of multiplication, which is, yeah, divide. We're going to divide both sides by 3. And that tells me x is equal to negative. And that's it. Questions on this here? Good with this here? Are you starting to get these? Yes? We want to do more? I don't mind doing more. I'm not picking anybody out in the crowd or any of y'all. I'm not looking at anybody individually. I'm just seeing. Good. Number 5. This one here. So this time the distributive property is on the right, yes? It doesn't matter where it's at. We'll still be doing the same thing. We're multiplying that number by every term. Now we use term is just saying the group. So 2D is a term. Now it's just multiplying by everything inside here. Now the 15 won't change. 5 plus, so we're going to do 4 times 2D. So we do 4 times 2D. And then 4 times negative 3. So negative 3 times 4. Now if we write it on the right side or the left side, it really doesn't matter. I've been writing this one, so I wrote one of them on the right. I wrote the 4 on the left for the negative 3, just so we kind of keep the sign, understand what the sign is going to be. That's the only reason.
Well, since it's written out like that, isn't that not the same like that, but like the same as 4, just flip-flop? Like they just
Yeah, we could have had it on the other side. Yeah. Well, 4 times 2D, well, 4 times 2 is, so we have 8D. Negative 3 times 4 is negative 12. So now we can combine like terms. So what are our like terms? And, yep. So if I combine those, what is 5 minus 12? Any questions so far? Making sense? Yes? Yes? Okay. Then what are we going to do next? We need to get our letter D. We need to get the variable D by itself. So what's with it? The minus 7. See ya. So we do what? We add 7 to both sides. And the reason we do this is because negative 7 plus 7 is 0. It goes away. So it leaves us with 8D on one side. And over here we have 15 plus 7. And last but not least, by 8. Now, if we plug it in, I think it'll give you 11 over 4. Or what does it give you? 2.75? Do you see the two little arrows above the enter deal? So enter, do you see where enter is at the bottom?
Yeah.
That one right there, hit it.
2.75 is equal to 11 over 4. Oh, okay. I didn't know that difference.
Yeah. So, where? Yeah. So enter. So we have that. Or if you use that, it'll switch it between fraction and decimal if it's possible to write it as a fraction. If it's possible to write it as a fraction. 11 4 or 2.75. Either one of those is the correct answer. You just have to figure out which one you want to write it in. Questions on this here? We good with this here? Yes? Yep. Let's look at this one. This one's a little bit different, isn't it? Because I think it's... What are we distributing this time?
2x.
So 2x, yes? So let's see what happens when I distribute 2x. Well, I'm going to do what? 2x times 5. And then we have negative 3 times 2x minus 3x. Well, what is 2x times 5? Well, 2 times 5 is 10, isn't it? Because we'll have 10x. Because 2 times 5 is 10, and we have the x with it. Now we're going to do negative 3 times 2x. Well, negative 3 times 2 is negative 6, and we have our x. Well, how many like terms do we have this time? 3, yes? So we can do this in one step, or we can do it in 2. Let's do it in 2. What is 10 minus 6x? Yeah. 4x, yes? 4x minus 3x. What is 4x minus 3x? It ended up being that all the x's simplified down to just 1.
Wait, how did you get 1 out of 4x minus 3x equals 5?
So 4 minus 3 is? So how many x's? So the left side of that. Yeah. It looks like I just jumped and said x equals 5. But the 4x minus 3x left us with x, so x equals 5. It just worked out that everything on the left simplified to x.
So would it be wrong if you put 1x?
No, 1x and x are the same thing. It's the, for English, it's the equivalent of the understood u. 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. So it's almost, if I said pick up the mask. Well, you know who I'm talking to, yes? I didn't have to say you pick up the mask, because the understood you in English, we don't have to include it in a sentence. That's the same thing with 1 in math. It's there, but we don't have to write it if we don't want to. It's just understood. Yep, that x is being multiplied by 1. Really, we can multiply anything by 1, and it doesn't change what the number or value is. Any other questions on this here? We good with this here? Yes? Okay. So y'all can go on and start working on that assignment.